Ever followed someone who works for you because you were sure they were stealing from you? I did. And what I found that night shattered the kind of man I thought I was and forced me to decide what kind of man I wanted to be. My name is Desmond, and for most of my adult life, people knew me for all the wrong reasons. The cars, the glass mansion, the armed gate, the 3 phones that never stopped ringing, the expensive whiskey that sat untouched on a marble shelf just so visitors could see the labels. Billionaire, tech guy, power player. The man you don't lie to because he's already run a background check on you before you shake his hand. You know what I mean? That was my thing, control. I built my company from scratch, survived 2 hostile takeovers, 1 messy breakup that almost made the blogs, and a betrayal from a guy I once called brother. After that, trust was not something I gave, it was something people failed to earn. So by the time my maid Doris entered my world, the walls were already sky high. She came in quietly. 27, from Enugu, soft voice, kept her hair wrapped, wore simple clothes, no drama. She moved through my house like a shadow with a purpose, sweeping, mopping, arranging shelves, watering plants I forgot I owned. Always, "Good morning, sir," always on time, always respectful, no flirting, no gossip, no side conversations with security, nothing. Just work. Thank you, good night. On paper, that sounds perfect, right? In my head, it was a problem. It was too clean, too careful, too neat. People who had burned me before had also looked neat. Then little things started to bother me. The short phone calls in Igbo that ended when I walked into the room, the quiet tension in her shoulders, the way she sometimes left a bit earlier than usual, always with that same line. "My mother is not well, sir." One evening around 6 p.m., the sky that soft Lagos gold, I stood at the upstairs balcony just watching the compound, letting my brain chew on numbers and contracts when I saw her, Doris, hurrying down the steps with 2 nylon bags, not heavy but full. And she was moving fast, like she was hoping to leave before anyone noticed. That was all it took. A story started writing itself in my head. I walked out. "Doris, wait." She froze, turned eyes a little wider. "Yes, sir. Did I forget something?" I came down the stairs, slow, calm, hands in my pockets, like this was casual. My mind was not casual. I looked at the bags. "What's inside those?" She adjusted her grip. "Just some things I picked up at lunchtime, sir. Groceries." I kept looking at her face, the way her fingers tightened, the way her smile felt glued on. "You've been leaving early a lot lately," I said. "Always saying it's your mother, that she's sick." "Yes, sir," she said quickly. "I told you she's not been well. I'm trying my best." And then the paranoid, wounded part of me took the wheel. "I heard you on the phone yesterday," I said. "You mentioned needing urgent money. You were speaking in Igbo. Are you hiding something, Doris?" Her eyelashes fluttered. I don't understand what you mean." "I'm not asking," I snapped, heat creeping into my voice. "I'm telling you something is going on." The air between us went heavy, and for the first time since she started working for me, she lifted her head fully and looked me right in the eyes. Not defiant, not scared, just tired. "Sir, if you don't trust me," she said quietly, "maybe you should find someone else to clean your house." Then she turned around and walked out through that big iron gate like it wasn't 3 times her size. Pattern interrupt that one sentence hit harder than any boardroom insult I'd ever heard. I stood there watching her go, listening to the gate slam, and instead of thinking, maybe I went too far, my first instinct was, I knew it, she's hiding something. Yeah, that happened. That's how deep in my own fear I was. Later that night, the house felt wrong. Too quiet. Too big. I poured myself whiskey I didn't drink, stared at my laptop screen, then pulled up her employee file. Name Doris Easer, age 27, from Enugu. No criminal record. Good references. Everything clean. Again, too clean. My mind started replaying something from a rainy day a week before. She'd come in soaked coat dripping on the floor. She'd hung it near the door, and I, surprising even myself, had offered to move it to dry. When I lifted it, I felt a folded slip of paper in the pocket. Didn't think much of it then. That night I went to the same coat felt in the pocket, and the crumpled bank slip was still there. I opened it. 200,000 naira. Transferred to an account in Enugu, account name Ima, her mother. Another story I couldn't tell. One voice in my head whispered, "She told you about her mom, this is proof." The other voice, the one that had been trained by lawyers and liars, said, "Or you're funding something you didn't sign up for." Let me ask you something real. If it were you, what would you have done holding that slip? Trust the story or investigate? Be honest. I went to bed angry, not at her, but at this feeling that I was being managed, played. I don't like being confused. Confusion to me has always felt like the first symptom of being scammed. So when she asked to leave early again that Friday, saying her mother had a hospital checkup and she had things to handle, I smiled, nodded, told her to take care. And the moment the gate closed behind her, I reached for my car keys. 15 minutes later, I was slouched down in my SUV a little way down the street, engine off, lights off, watching her walk like she had somewhere important to be. No taxi, no ride, just sandals and a small bag. She boarded a yellow Danfo heading toward Ajagunle. Ajagunle, from my side of town, at that time of evening. My suspicion sharpened. I started the engine and followed. Lagos at night is chaos in 4D, honking, shouting grills, smoking by the roadside, hawkers tapping windows, bodies everywhere, that strange mix of survival and laughter pulsing through the streets. I tailed the bus, half hidden among other cars, watching the back of her head through dusty glass. She never looked back. After nearly an hour, the bus turned down a rougher road and stopped. Doris got down, adjusted her bag, and walked past little shops with fading signs, past tired men on plastic chairs, past women frying puff-puff by lantern light. Then she stopped in front of a building with peeling paint and a crooked metal sign, Umuna Community Learning Center, Evening Classes Food Support. I remember squinting at it, annoyed. This was not what I had in my head. I parked across the road, killed the engine, and watched. Through the cracked window, I saw a small room. Plastic chairs, old fan pretending to work, a stained whiteboard, maybe 15 adults inside. Then Doris walked in. My maid. My quiet, always in the background maid. She didn't go sit in the back. She went to the front. She put down her bag, took out some notebooks, a marker, a small pack of bread. She smiled, and I swear to you it was like seeing a different person. "Good evening, everyone," she said. "How body you good today? We continue with English for hospital and work all right." She wrote on the board. "How are you? I feel pain. I need a doctor." The class repeated after her, laughing, stumbling, trying again. When an old man struggled, she came to his side, knelt, guided his mouth around each word with patience I'd never had for anyone in my life. Then she opened one of those nylon bags and started handing out bread and water. Bread I had seen her bring into my compound. Bread I thought was suspicious. Pattern interrupt. In 1 minute, my whole story about her collapsed. She wasn't sneaking out to meet a man or flipping some side hustle with my money or running with thieves. She was teaching, feeding, carrying people the world had forgotten. Using a salary I paid her to hold up a roof that was falling on someone else. I sat there in my car with tinted windows, rich, powerful, and suddenly I felt like the smallest person on that street. I didn't go in. I didn't confront her. I drove home with my shame-riding shotgun. Back in my silent house, I opened my laptop and searched the name on that fading sign. Simple website, nothing fancy, zero marketing department, a few blurry photos, a short paragraph about free evening literacy classes and food support funded by donations and volunteers. Behind on rent, roof in need of repair, volunteers use their own money for supplies. And there she was in almost every picture, teaching, carrying boxes, hugging old women, reading books, no mention of me, no sign she was leveraging my name, just work, service, sacrifice. That night I called David, my assistant, the one person who knew how cold-hearted I could be and still showed up to work. "Do a deep dive on this Umuna Community Learning Center," I told him. "Debt's landlord, how many people they serve, everything. And Doris, I want to confirm something." He paused. "Boss, did something happen?" "Yeah," I said quietly. "I happened. Just get me the numbers." The report the next morning was ugly in all the ways that matter. 2 months behind on rent. Landlord threatening to lock up the place. Roof leaking in 2 spots. Food program inconsistent, volunteers chipping in from their own pockets. Doris listed officially as lead volunteer. No salary. And this part almost physically hurt. She was working my house on weekdays, a small supermarket on weekends, and still giving her evenings for free to that center. Meanwhile, I had judged her for carrying nylon bags. In that moment, I hated the version of me that thought suspicion was intelligence. Let me ask you, do you think that's fair? That people like her give everything, and people like me assume the worst? Or is that exactly the problem? The next morning, I walked into my own kitchen earlier than usual. Doris was wiping down the counter, folding towels like she always did, quiet, precise. She jumped a little when she saw me. I never came down that early. "Good morning, sir," she said. "I was just finishing. I'll move out of your way." "Doris," I said, "sit for a moment, please." That please surprised both of us. She sat lightly on the edge of a chair, hands folded like she might get fired if they moved. I took a breath. "I know about the learning center," I said. Her fingers tightened. "Sir, I followed you." I cut in, staring down at my mug. "That night you left early. I thought you were stealing from me or lying or something." She blinked, pain flashing across her face. "You followed me?" She repeated softer, like the words were heavier than the table. "Yes," I said. "And I was right that you were hiding something. I was just completely wrong about what it was." I told her what I saw, her teaching, feeding, carrying. I told her I found the website, the photos, the debts. I told her I was sorry. No lawyer speech, no billionaire spin, just a man saying, "I misjudged you." She looked down, eyes wet. "I didn't tell you because I didn't think it mattered," she said. "It's just something I have to do." "It matters," I said, and I meant it. A few days later, an anonymous transfer hit the center's account. 5 million naira. Enough to clear the rent fix, the roof, expand the program, and breathe. Message: "We believe in your mission." No name, no logo, no check presentation for the cameras. Just numbers on a screen. At the center they shouted, called it a miracle. At my house, I just sat at my desk and let myself feel less useless. Somewhere in that same window of time, around 5:30 one morning, I walked into the kitchen and found Doris sitting at the table and her wrapper, small lamp on papers spread out everywhere. She didn't hear me at first. Her lips were moving as she read. "What are you working on?" I asked, clearing my throat. She jumped. "Oh, sir, good morning. I'm sorry. It's nothing important." I sat down across from her. "Doris, come on. I'm not blind. What is it?" She hesitated, then slid a paper toward me. "It's my thesis, sir, for my diploma. I attend evening classes after the center." The title read, "Invisible Brilliance: Why Skilled Nigerians from Rural Areas Are Forced into Survival Jobs in the City." I read a passage about a trained midwife who ended up cleaning offices in Lagos because no clinic would recognize her papers. About a man who used to repair generators back home, now pushing a wheelbarrow in the market. About the way we, the so-called educated ones, look at uniforms and decide someone's value in 2 seconds. She spoke quietly, but there was fire under her words. "People look at us and see house girl, security, driver," she said. "But many of us were something before that, or could have been something if the system wasn't so hard." I looked at her and realized she wasn't just giving out bread, she was fighting a war with a marker and a plastic chair. That was the moment another twist started growing in my mind. Not about her, about me. If I was serious about changing, this couldn't stop at one anonymous transfer. I had a small foundation for education and youth projects, something my accountants loved more than I did. I had kept it quiet, minimal, lazy. Watching her, I realized my philanthropy was just me signing checks to feel like a good citizen. So one afternoon, I called her into the dining room. There was a file on the table with my foundation logo on it. "Doris," I said, "I run a foundation. It's small, but I want to do more with it. Education, community work, real support." She nodded slowly, unsure where this was going. "I want to offer you a full-time role," I said. "Community outreach director. Salary that makes sense. You can support your mother, finish school, grow the center, build more programs. You're already doing the work, just without tools." Her hands trembled as she opened the file. "Sir, I don't know what to say." "Say yes," I told her with a small smile. "You've more than earned it." That's where, if this were a simple feel-good movie, she'd cry, accept, hug me, and the credits would roll over a montage of success stories. But life isn't that clean. Here's your twist. She didn't say yes. Not that day, not the next. Instead, something in the air shifted. She grew quieter around me, not in the comfortable old way, but in that careful way of someone who is trying to solve a problem in their head and not bleed on anyone. One Friday, she knocked on my study door holding an envelope. "Sir, I came to give my notice," she said. It felt like the floor moved. "Notice." "Yes, sir," she said gently. 2 weeks. I want to spend more time at the center and focus on my last semester. And I need to be sure that when people help me, it's not because they expect something or because they feel guilty or because they—" She trailed off. I knew what she meant. I was a billionaire, her ex-boss, hovering dangerously close to her purpose. It was too much. I nodded. If this is what you need, I'll respect it. The next 2 weeks hurt more than I expected. We were polite distant, no more long pauses in the kitchen, no more late evening small talk. I wrote her recommendation letters myself, the kind people usually pay PR teams to invent. Handed them to her the day before she left. "They're true," I said when she tried to thank me. Then she was gone and my house went back to being exactly what it had been before her. Big, quiet, and absolutely empty. 3 months passed. I focused on work or pretended to. Signed deals flew out, flew back. But every now and then something small would hit. Seeing a plant she'd once watered, hearing a mop squeak, opening the fridge and finding it too organized. And I'd think of her. One morning my assistant walked in holding a gold-embossed envelope. "This one is addressed to you personally, sir," he said. I opened it. "You are cordially invited to the Umuna Community Center annual fundraising gala and award ceremony honoring Miss Doris Easer, Volunteer of the Year." "Should I send a polite decline?" he asked. I looked at the card for a long moment. "No," I said. "Tell them I'll be there." The night of the gala, that small building looked like a dream built on scraps and faith. String lights hanging from cheap hooks, white cloths on plastic tables, paper flowers made by students, laughter in every corner, people greeting each other in Yoruba, Igbo, Hausa pidgin, all mixed with the sound of hope. And there she was, Doris, in a blue and gold dress, moving through the room, checking on guests, adjusting things, smiling, owning the space. Not as anybody's maid, as a leader. They called her name. The room erupted. She walked to the front, received her plaque, and spoke into a crackling microphone with a steady voice. "I used to think nobody saw people like us," she said. "Tonight proves that every small act of service is seen by someone somewhere. This is not just my award, it's all of ours." People wiped their eyes. I clapped until my palms stung. Later, she stood by the entrance alone for a moment, fingers tracing the edge of her award. I walked over suddenly, more nervous than I'd ever been in any business pitch. "Congratulations," I said. "You deserve every bit of that." She smiled, small but real. "Thank you for coming, sir." Silence stretched. Then she took a breath. "There's something I've wanted to say. I just don't know who to say it to." "Try me," I said. She looked away. "My mother," she began, voice soft. "She's fine now. She had her surgery 3 months ago. Somebody paid the full bill, anonymous. And that same week the center, we got our biggest donation ever, 5 million, also anonymous." Her eyes glossed. "I don't know who did it, but if I ever met them, I'd tell them they saved my life." That was my line in the sand. I could have stayed silent, stayed the anonymous good guy in my own head, kept the distance. But distance was exactly what had ruined me for years. So I told her. "Doris," I said quietly, "it was me." She blinked. "What?" "I was the one who followed you that night," I said. "I saw everything. I was wrong. I made the donations. For your mom, for the center. Not because I pity you, but because you showed me something I hadn't seen in a long time." You could feel the air change. She wasn't smiling. Not yet. "You did all of that," she whispered, "and you didn't tell me. I didn't want you to feel like you owed me," I said. "I didn't want to wave it around like a trophy. I just wanted to help for once without making it about me." She shook her head slightly, trying to hold back tears. "You have to understand," she said. "My whole life, when help came, it came with strings. People using me, controlling me, taking credit, making decisions for me. So if I look confused right now, it's because I don't know how to accept help that might actually be honest." "That's fair," I said. "Question me. Question everything. But I need you to know this. It wasn't charity. It was love." Silence. Heavy, not empty. She searched my face for the lie, and for the first time in a long time I had none to give. "You changed me," I said. "I'm not saying that to put pressure on you, I'm just telling the truth. I spent half my life assuming people around me wanted to take. Then I met someone who gave until it hurt with nothing in return. You made me want to be the kind of man who deserves to be in the same room as that." A slow tear finally slipped down her cheek. She laughed once quietly. "You know this is a lot, right?" "I know," I said. "And I'm not asking you for an answer tonight. I'm just done hiding behind money and silence." I paused. "But I also know this, I don't want something casual with you. I don't want to play boss and former maid or savior and survivor. I want a partner. In life, in the work, in the fight. You and me building something where people like you don't get treated like ghosts." She was quiet for a long time, fingers tight around the plaque. Then she stepped closer and said, almost like she was exhaling a weight, "I've been afraid that if I let you in, I'd lose myself. But standing here now, I'm more afraid of what happens if I keep pushing away the people who actually see me." She leaned in and kissed me, soft, honest, real. "That's my answer," she whispered. "Mini call to action right here. Stick around because what happened next will blow your mind." I met her mother, her aunties, her entire community, sat on plastic chairs, ate food I couldn't pronounce properly, answered suspicious questions, got grilled about my intentions until we were all laughing. One Sunday, her mother looked at me and said, "He's too skinny, but his heart is okay. We can manage." That was my blessing. We got married not in some hotel ballroom with crystal chandeliers, but right there at the center. Fresh paint on the walls, new ceiling fans, murals drawn by the students, market women in bright wrappers, students in their best outfits. No ice sculptures, just ice in coolers. When Doris walked down that makeshift aisle holding her mother's hand, I forgot I was supposed to be the rich one. She looked like everything I had ever tried to buy. Peace, courage, purpose, wrapped into one human being. Her vows went straight through me. "I used to think I had to carry every burden alone," she said, voice shaking a little. "You reminded me that love isn't another weight, it's someone willing to carry it with you. I don't just marry you, Desmond, I choose to build and fight beside you." Mine were simple. "You showed me wealth is not the cars, the suits, the title, it's what we choose to do with all of it. I promise to be your teammate, your shield, your partner in purpose." A year later, the Izaka 4 Foundation was real, not a vanity project. A working engine, literacy programs, skills training, micro grants, health referrals, legal aid. We built offices that felt like welcome centers, not interrogation rooms. Doris-led teams trained teachers sat in dusty village squares listening to stories politicians never have time for. I handled the meetings, the funding, the paperwork, the deals. She handled the soul. We kept the original center as our heartbeat. One evening I drove her there with no context, just, "Come, there's something I want you to see." The building was brighter now, painted, secured, alive. Kids reading under fans that actually turned. Adults practicing sentences they'd once been scared to attempt. In the back room above the whiteboard hung a small gold plaque. The Doris Easer Learning Room, where every voice matters. She covered her mouth, eyes wet again. "I don't deserve this," she whispered. "You do," I told her. "You've always deserved more than the world gave you." That would be a perfect place to end this story, right? Happy ending. Billionaire, humbled maid, honored love wins, roll the credits. But I promised you honesty, not a postcard. So let me leave you with the part people argue about. Some folks hear this and say, "What a beautiful story of grace, second chances, using wealth for good." Others say, "Wait a minute, he followed her without her consent. He had the power. He watched from the shadows. He injected money into her life without telling her, then confessed his love with all that weight behind it. That's complicated." And they're not wrong. Power is messy. Money distorts things even when your heart is finally in the right place. So let me throw it to you. Do you think what I did was right? Would you call it redemption or control, wearing a nicer suit? If you were, Doris, would you have trusted me, or would you have stayed far away from a man who saw your life from the backseat of a car before he saw you as a person? If you were me, where is the line between doing nothing and doing too much? Tell me in the comments. Really. Don't hold back, because this is bigger than me and Doris. It's about how we look at the people who clean our houses, drive our cars, scan our groceries, wash our plates, the people easy to overlook until we need them. It's about the quiet heroes holding up entire communities with salaries that couldn't pay for a weekend brunch in the neighborhoods I used to party in. It's about whether love across power class money can ever be clean, or whether it's meaningful precisely because we choose to do the work of making it honest. If this story hit something in you, made you angry, hopeful, uncomfortable, emotional, don't just scroll away. Drop your thoughts below. Was I out of line? Did she forgive too easily? Is anonymous help the only pure help, or does accountability matter more? And if you've ever been that invisible worker or the person who misjudged someone, I want to hear your story too. Share this video with someone who needs a reminder that you never really know the battles the help is fighting or the demons the rich guy is wrestling with. Hit subscribe so you don't miss the next story, because the world is full of quiet revolutions like this, and we are going to talk about them. And until then, look a little longer at the people you pass by. You might be standing in front of someone whose courage makes your whole idea of success look small.